X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
In OVW, NXT, and WWE. He's won the TNA Heavyweight Championship 2 times, and he's currently signed to Impact Wrestling. Please welcome EC3.
All right. Yeah. Hey, man.
What's up, X-Pac? How's it going?
Fantastic, man.
Hey, I thought before we even get started, I gotta break the ice. I gotta come clean with you, if that's okay, if I can have a minute.
Please.
Yeah. All right. So, I think the year was probably 2000. I was about 16 years old. I was front row for a SmackDown taping. I brought a poster board in, and on one side, I think I shadily wrote like The Rock rules.
Yeah.
So I can get it in. But I secretly brought a bunch of markers with me.
Yeah.
And I was 16. So, and you know, I'm 34 now, and it's actually the exact same because I think dicks are hilarious. So I drew a gigantic, just male phallus, just nuts and bolts, the whole 9 yards, vein, everything, hair, just like,
Yeah.
it was pretty artistic.
It's
I
like
would say,
Superman.
all up, I was sitting there in the stands. And then when you came out, I yelled, "Hey, X-Pac," and you had a tag match, and you were on the corner, and you looked over at me, you said, "What?"
Yeah.
And then I showed you the big old, hog, the dog.
Yeah. What happened?
And, you laughed. Actually.
Okay. I was gonna
popped,
say
and
I
it got
must
taken
have
away from me.
busted out laughing.
Yeah. So I saved that for you, and now that that's off my chest, we can commence talking wrestling.
Hey, did you get kicked out over it, or were you able to hide the sign again?
I just got a reprimand and a sign taken from me, which
'Cause-
is
Come on, man. That like back in that era, like that was maybe just a little bit above like
What was okay?
at best. Come on, man. There was some pretty raunchy signs, man, in the crowd back then.
I think the full-on visual of it kind of made it not okay. But
Yeah.
I mean, if there was more innuendo, perhaps I would have gotten away with it. But it was basic and plain to see. So.
Yeah. Hey, did we ever meet before FCW when you were in Independence?
I don't believe we have, no.
So you remember? I remember my first memory of meeting you was when I finally came back from Mexico, and you guys were in FCW. It was still called FCW at the time, and that was my first time meeting you, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe you were there watching some talent work, some matches with Paul. As I
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah, it was Triple H, myself, and Undertaker came, and everyone just kind of got in the ring. You remember that? And just like people worked out, and it was kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. And then I remember we did like kind of a basic wrestling show,
Right?
and I was one of the last matches, and I think I worked with Roman. And if I recall that too, I had my face was on a chair from being an extra on like a photo shoot with Triple H,
Yeah.
where we were in a prison. So, everybody else did basic whatever they could, try not to step on toes. And I made a big elaborate entrance holding the chair with my face on it, even though it was, Triple H was the focus. And
Right.
ha ha ha, what a creative guy. But then we worked the match and it was whatever. And I believe you commended me on a good effort and some funny stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm sure I did because I was a fan of yours at that time, and then all of a sudden you were gone.
yeah, well, life happens.
Well, was this the same situation where you saw AJ and you were like, you guys need to take a look at AJ?
Yeah, that was the same time, like when that particular time we were talking about there. No, EC3 is just too many syllables for me to say every time I address you, man.
You could drop
E.
a solid E or a solid 3.
I'll go with the E. I'll go with the E. And because Eric Bischoff's easy E, so you can just be E. Oh, yeah, no, that was the same time, and like there were certain people that like nobody was really paying attention to there that ended up being stars.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens, and sometimes it's not a bad thing to have that kind of, the feel of neglect or unappreciative to kind of inspire you to work harder and do better. And, when you find the right time to showcase your skills. You know, if you stay in the game long enough, you're going to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me at that moment, but it did tend to work out, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Jimbo.
You always say you have an eye for talent.
Yes.
So seeing E there, were you like, this guy's got something? And then you, like you said, he just was gone, and were you like, where did he go? This guy had potential. Why is he gone?
Yeah, and then, well, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
If I recall, like at that time, I was in between NXT when it was a game show and no one cared about it, and
that was
FCW,
awful,
so
by
I'd
the
be-
way. I'm sorry, that was awful
But going
concept.
back and watching it now, it's really entertaining.
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
Point
watching
taken.
a freaking Lifetime movie. You know, you're not really,
Right.
but you're gonna laugh at the action. But I think I was doing all right then. I was kind of in that in between spot on the road and in developmental. I got hurt on the road. I believe it was a Saturday night's main event match with Cesaro, and I kind of got hurt. I was already lost, so when I rehabbed and had surgery, I was like, well, I'm going to go back to developmental to at least hone my skills or do whatever, get myself back on the radar. And instead, I got fired. But it's okay, you know, because it's a lessons learned and inspired me, and it made me work harder and
tell me
opportunity elsewhere.
And tell me how long it took between that firing. I mean, was that would you consider it being fired?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to say are professional wrestlers actually fired or per our independent contract.
Exactly
status,
right.
or
I
just
think
not
maybe we're
used.
splitting hairs here, aren't we? Or I am.
If we're gonna get
Yeah.
the beakers out and do some science based on
Right.
it. But I mean, deep down, yeah, I was fired, and it's okay to say that because you're allowed to fail, right? You know. That shit
Yeah,
happens.
I don't know if I would consider that a failure though on your part, man. I'm pretty honest about it. Like I'd tell you if I thought it was.
Yeah.
How much time in between that and when you ended up working for TNA?
You know, it's funny because like at the time where I realized in developmental what I was doing was not working, I was contemplating a big drastic change, look change, work change, promo change, like the whole 9 yards, as far as what EC3 actually became. So I cut off my, you know, crazy, goofy, long hair. It still looks good on you, it never looked good on me. But chopped that off, and I had this new look and idea kind of planned out. But as soon as I cut my hair, you know, I was already on the block, so it ended for me. I wasn't technically fired, but between that and like my 3 months.
Oh, for your
your
non-compete clause?
Yeah, for that 3 months, you know, I did a couple indies, and I just kind of was wondering about life. Is this the right thing for me? And I said, you know what? No one's going to dictate my life. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. And I was very fortunate because TNA had a little bit of a new management, and somebody from WWE saw something in me. And then the second that 3 months was up, I was starting there with a new character that kind of, when they brought me in to try out for TNA, I brought them this idea, and they actually had the idea for Dixie's nephew as well.
Yes.
So it was like just a compilation of our idea together, and boom, we're off to the race.
So in TNA, you've had Dixie as your boss, you've had Billy Corgan as your boss, and now you have Dutch Mantell as your boss?
Is Dutch the boss, or is he
Or-
just the pencil
chef.
man? You know, I would consider. I've had a lot of bosses, it seems.
How have each of them been different, and what has the experience been in TNA since you've been there? And coming in with a character like that where you knew you were going to be a marquee guy. Instead of like most WWE guys that come over to TNA where they're like, hey, remember this guy from over there? You were totally clean slated.
Yeah, well, to the point. I don't mean to interrupt what you're saying, Jimbo, but to the point, where I didn't recognize you at first. Like I knew you from somewhere, but I didn't put two and two together. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
2 + 2 = 3, aka EC3, I guess. But no, it was definitely a benefit for me to not have any sort of like legitimate WWE run to come over and launch a new character, because they wanted to build their own people as opposed to former names always. So like right place, right time for me in that retrospect.
And I think of all the people that they've tried to to as far as kind of what you would consider homegrown talent. Like I think they did the best job with you.
Definitely.
I really did.
well,
Oh, I think you all did the best. I think, and you too, what you brought to the table. It's just, I think they didn't drop the ball on that one.
Well, and
I think they also had the best guy.
For
with the
sure.
gun. No, just kidding.
No, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay to say that, man, because you really brought it. You really brought it to the table on that, man. And I bought you as a world champion.
Yeah, and I think the EC3 character was so much different than other homegrown talent like an AJ Styles,
Right.
whose performance was his whole thing. He wasn't good on the mic, and he wasn't a character, and he wasn't that entertaining. It was, you want to see him wrestle and do cool stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas EC3 was on the mic, and you're like, anytime he gets the mic, it's gonna be entertaining. What's he
Yeah,
gonna
you
do?
didn't even want to see EC3 wrestle. That was awesome.
How did you
No, but
feel when they first told you that you were going to come in and play Dixie Carter's nephew? What was that like for you?
It was interesting in the aspect, I mean, anybody in the industry can be, when somebody has an idea for you and they're like, hey, we got this idea, deep down in your gut, you're like, this is going to suck, and you're super nervous.
Yeah.
And you know it's going to be awful, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be the axe man, and I'm going to have like a lumberjack outfit, and I'm going to come out with an axe, it's going to suck.
That's a
But,
wrestler in WXW in Germany.
Oh, well, works for
There you
him.
have it.
Legit name
But,
and everything.
They kind of pitched that idea for me, and then the second I was hearing it, my idea started rolling. I was like, this is actually really good, and I
Yeah.
can make this work. So
Especially when you're connected to the person that owns the company. That's always
that
a
didn't
good
hurt
thing.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were you worried when Dixie was no longer associated with the company that would alter your character?
Not at all, just because I think by the time, even at the end of her ownership of the company, the character kind of got away from solely being based on the lineage or the family name or the nepotism, and it kind of developed on its own to what it is today, hopefully.
From
So,
being like Ethan Carter the third to EC3.
yeah, because I mean, if EC3 has too many syllables, that whole name, Jesus, it's at least 8.
No, it's not too many syllables, but it's just too many syllables every time
Need to
every time
address you.
yeah, that's all.
We talked about when you were first starting off, Ethan Carter, and then you went from like a star to a superstar, somebody that was built in TNA. Do you think that your hair versus hair match with Rockstar Spud was, that moment for you where you transitioned from star to superstar?
Yeah, and I think it was designed to kind of be like that. Fortunately, in the early TNA run for EC3, I had a it was a nice slow build, and it wasn't we're gonna make him star right away by throwing him the main angles. It kind of developed on the beginning of the show and the undercard and through the mid card, and kind of worked its way up. Even though I was working with guys like Sting and Bully, but eventually Angle. But I do think the angle with Spud and I that culminated in hair versus hair was kind of the next step process, because that's an angle that we're both fairly young in the industry, and we were new, and we were not legitimate names at the time. And Rockstar Spud will never be a legitimate name. Let's just say it. I'm just kidding. I hate to love that guy. Or
Right.
love to hate that guy. But we were
sorry.
able to carry that angle, and we did a lot of it based on our own kind of intuition and thought process on how it should work. I mean, we didn't dictate the results or anything, but we put a lot of that into ourselves, and he did me a great favor, and I think it did help me launch to go to Kurt and become capable of being a world champion for the company.
Well, it seemed like you really helped Spud as well, because until he was working with you, he was kind of still doing that rock star character, and then once he started working with you, he got the jackets and the bow ties,
Yeah.
and really became his own, and it was really entertaining.
He completely invested in himself, and that's a mark of a true professional. And before even walking into TNA or meeting Spud, I remember watching him on an episode of TNA and saying, I hate this freaking guy. This guy is a complete piece of expletive. I couldn't stand him just watching him on TV. So then I knew he was a great heel, because even I, in a jaded sense, watching from the industry standard, was like, I hate this dude. And then we got together, and they were putting this angle together, and we kind of became very close, and our business ideas match up, and I think a lot of it has to do. We spent a lot of time in OVW with Rip Rogers, and I think that's what made us gel pretty quickly. And then, now he's kayfabe, a really close friend in a sense, even though I shaved his head and made him bloody in front of his mom and dad.
Oh, that was terrible.
But he's money though. Like, and the stuff you guys did, there was magic to that. That like, okay, they don't have to put that. Like they can like not write that at the top, the main part of the show or the main segment, but it still ends up being the main one to me,
because everyone's talking about it the next day and how entertaining it was, especially with you're in his hunt for Willow. Kind of was the precursor to Apocalypto and the whole broken universe, really.
Like we really set the bar to get weird in wrestling, I guess. But that match, I think the best part about it is that it took place in his hometown. Like, it took place in London, and that's where we had like a very hot territory at the time, and we had great crowds there. And even before, because we took some time off, because we were in one of those many times where we're in between TV deals and the future's speculative, I tore my bicep, so I had to have surgery. And that was like a 4-month recovery process. But I knew the angle had to culminate in the UK, so it was like 7 weeks after I had surgery. I did everything I could to make sure we did that match, and we did it there. And I'm very grateful TNA let me do that, because I knew that was going to be a star-making moment. And then after that, the next time I'd be doing TV, I'd probably be completely healthy. So
how did it go?
I took a risk, but
did you make it through without any mishaps, without re-injuring it?
Yeah. So it's
nice.
Fortunately it all worked out.
Because I was talking to these guys earlier about being gun shy when you come back from an injury, and how that can actually, like, so many people I know, man, ended up getting hurt just because they were gun shy going back in the ring.
Yeah, I think it was if you watch the match back, you're not gonna look at it as a masterpiece of clinical precision. What we had, and what I think a lot of wrestling lacks today, is we just had a great story, and we told that story, and that was
And the crowd was and the crowd was invested in it. Like, I mean, there was emotional investment in that. Go ahead, Jimbo.
Well,
sorry.
Was this your second big injury, because you tore your ACL and then you tore your bicep?
Who knows by that point? That was probably, I had 4 knee surgeries prior to that. That was just through a lifetime of bad wrestling decisions, but that was probably my 5th surgery. So I was used to coming back from injuries, but it definitely wasn't it was probably, I would say it was my 3rd biggest one.
Did it affect your physique at all and getting in the gym? And because you're really a body guy.
You're very right.
I like to consider myself a body guy who can work and talk and is a bumping heel.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely like that body. I looked like shit compared to what I look like now, but that's because I worked out as much as I could with one arm and did a bunch of cardio. But it was like, I wouldn't put myself on the Olympia stage for that match, but I didn't look terrible. I had a giant arm brace on there too, so at least that was covered up.
Jeez.
Oh man. So other than Spud, Tyrus was another person that you worked with a lot in TNA. What was it from going against him, like competing against him as NXT as part of the rookie challenge, to then having him be your bodyguard in TNA?
It's from an in-ring perspective, it's very funny, because in WWE he kicked the living crap out of me, but in TNA all of a sudden he was my heavy, and I ordered him around. So that was it's funny going full circle. But prior to that, we worked in FCW for so long, we developed a kinship and a friendship, and we've been through up and down the roads together and through thick and thin. So working with him was great, because he's been around it, and he loves what he does to an extent. And it was just like old times pretty much, because we had a lot of good developmental rapport that we can work with. So
who else did you have that rapport with? Because it didn't seem like you and Daniel Bryan had great chemistry together. Where did that all come from?
I think because we're both huge dorks.
So
because we definitely had different paths, and he didn't go through the system per se as we did. I think when we started on NXT, there was no pressure because it wasn't even on TV anymore. It was just on the internet. I mean, I think they had international TV, but there's no pressure, and there wasn't a lot of eyes on that are going to scrutinize it. So he just wanted to come have fun, and I thought I would stand out by being fun to be around and goofy and weird. So it kind of worked out pretty well.
So how much of that was it literally like, here, you guys, you have time, go do what you want, or did they have guidelines for you or things that they wanted you to get across?
If I remember, like, a lot of those promos and stuff were hatched by us, but they set the scenario and what they wanted out of it, and then we kind of pretty much put together our little thing, and then they filmed it, and they were like, it'll work. Yeah, sure. Like, I believe, like, submission wrestling we just came up with because, well, we got this idea where Dana Bryan's teaching submissions on this mat, and we don't know how it ends, so figure it out. So, figure it out. Like, we got this idea where you're backstage, and, we don't really know how it ends, but figure it out. Well, how about an American flag just descends from the rafters for no reason, and Dana Bryan's confused? Yeah, all right, fine.
See, I wish they would do that with, like, the regular shows. Like, hey, we don't know how it's going to end, but here, figure it out. Thank you. Let me figure that out.
Yeah, I feel like SmackDown is kind of like that now. It seems like it's a great show, and it seems relaxed and laid back, and it seems like the talent has a little more, like the Fashion Files, it seems a collaborative effort with creative and the talent. Yeah. I can't be totally wrong. But then, hey, we're going to go on a double date with the Bellas. How is it going to end? Well, I should probably get upset and flip the table over, don't you think?
Well, hey, that'll work. Hey, we had Road Dogg on last week, and Vince, he doesn't even show up to SmackDown most of the time.
Whoa.
Yeah, he just lets Road Dogg and all the writers and everyone handle the show, and I think that's honestly, people are a little bit more relaxed, and I think better things have come out of it.
Yeah, I think just the show flows, and it seems like everybody has a spot and a reason to be there, and it's not like fodder. And I thoroughly enjoy watching that every Tuesday. So, and tell Road Dogg I said what's up.
Absolutely.
So in that Bella dinner, was it like you guys are gonna have dinner and then you do the rest? So you were like, oh, spill something on my American flag Zubas, and I'll freak out and throw the table.
Yeah. And Nikki and Bree were very full of ideas with it too, because the whole gist of it was they were both into Daniel Bryan, and I was the third wheel that was just a freaking train wreck and an idiot. So I believe Nikki really was like persistent on shoving a bread roll in my mouth. And then I was like, that's fine. We were very give and take. I was like, that's fine, but I'm going to throw a bag of change at you to pay for the bill.
I was going to ask, whose idea was that?
That was mine, because my friend in college did that once, and I just stole it from him. Like, he had a bag of change in a fanny pack, and like he got mad and threw it at a bartender once, and he was he was a drunken fool. And it was hilarious to me, so I just...
That's insane.
I have weird friends.
Prior to college, I heard a story. Did you really work at Build-A-Bear before you were a wrestler?
No.
No. Okay.
What?
I was like, I heard
Jimbo.
I heard a story. I was like, I wonder if this is true or not.
Now we know.
Oh
It's
my
official.
Well, now we know it's not.
Well,
Is it on my Wikipedia? Because that's...
No, I think it was just like an interview you had. You might have just been goofing around saying stuff. But
Maybe.
I was like, is that for real? And then I pictured you at Build-A-Bear, how it would be.
Well, going back to, obviously, you were handled different in WWE than you are now on Impact. Is there anything, though, that you took away from WWE to apply to your career? Like, anything at all?
100, everything. I mean, I spent 4 years in developmental, and at times it would get ad nauseum and bumps and drills and that kind of stuff, but I was always in great condition because of that. Every week you had promo class with Dusty Rhodes, so even if I was doing crappy promos or not what he wanted, I was listening to his critiques, not only of my promos, but other people's promos, and his way of communicating and telling stories. And then, working with Dr. Tom Pritchard, just psychology was really big. Working with Norman, like different holds and unique ways to get into them.
Norman Smiley.
Norman's a man. But everything I learned in developmental and then working NXT on the road, every night we were working in front of an audience who had no idea who we were, so it was always a challenge to get reactions and we were kind of hampered by, being undercard and not really allowed to probably do everything we could do.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you guys had freaking handcuffs on it. I mean, for lack of a better term, like I used to wonder how come you're going out there in these matches and not doing certain things that like I think you should be doing, and it was like, well, we're not allowed to. I don't understand that, man.
To be fair, I mean, we shouldn't ask and we should just do.
That's
and
right.
Ask for forgiveness later. And looking back on that, I wish I could have done more, because maybe they would say, oh, he shouldn't have done this and this, but I'm really glad he did, because that was pretty cool. And it's okay though,
Right.
Another lesson I learned there, which I took the TNA, like, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to do what I have to do.
So you finally got your promo style like dialed in. It seemed like, and what was it that got you there?
Good question. I think a lot of like developmental promos and a lot of the stuff I did at NXT was haha and humorous. Even if I didn't intend it to be laugh out loud funny, like not trying to be a comedy guy per se, because I remember watching the Attitude Era and I remember Edge and Christian were funny, but they weren't comedy guys.
Right.
Angle was funny, Austin was funny, The Rock was funny, DX was funny, but they weren't comedy. And that's what I tried to do, but I couldn't quite, capture, or I was just perceived as trying to be a funny guy all the time. But I want to think with TNA, the character was just able to, instead of I'm out there trying to be funny, I'm a bad guy who's entitled and doing whatever he wants. So it's not really funny. He's just kind of being an asshole. But in retrospect to an audience of my peers or you guys, you appreciate the nonsensical humor that's involved in being a over-the-top dickhead.
Did you have to reach deep to find that inner asshole?
No. my inner asshole is very easy. I mean, like, it took no effort for me to get deep into my inner asshole.
Nice.
So what was like one
As long as you don't get deep into mine. Because I tore mine. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
What was one of the most important things you learned from Dusty?
Just the communication, the telling the story, the ability to pace a promo, the hook in the beginning and the conclusion being the most important part, and the peaks and valleys you take them on the way when you're trying to tell that story. He compared it a lot to a promo's a match and a match is a promo. You have your initial thing that catches their attention. You have your peaks and valleys, your ups and your downs, and then you can have the best promo in the world, but your finish absolutely sucks. You can have the best match in the world, and your finish absolutely sucks. You have a bad match, you have a bad promo. You can have an okay or a bad match until the end, and the conclusion is great. Then you have a great promo and a great match. So that being the most important part.
And it's true. It is true. And hey, I was, when I would go down there and I'd listen to Dusty talk to y'all, he would often use like references to making movies and analogies to that. And it was like he was always talking about, like this was his movie. And do you remember him talking about that?
Very, very deeply. And I think, I don't want to say I'm an expert at it because I still have a lot to learn, but being able to, when I look at wrestling, or at least my characters and the stories I try to tell, having a depth to them that's not just a booyah, a bad guy, good guy, but reasons for actions and a story and a movie. Like, why can't wrestling have characters that are developed like a Walter White,
Sure. Or he would mention Game of Thrones or different things like that often.
He was big in the movies. I think he really wanted to make a movie, and he probably would have made a really damn good one.
I think so. Yeah, I think he would have.
Well, something that's a lot like a movie is Lucha Underground, and your time in NXT with Maxine, who is now Katrina in Lucha Underground, Carly Perez, and Johnny Curtis, who is now Fandango, was probably the most entertaining thing that NXT put on TV at that time. It was on Hulu, but put on TV. How do you feel seeing her doing her thing in Lucha Underground, you're doing your thing in Impact, and now Fandango's finally getting TV time on SmackDown?
Finally, I feel it's come full circle, and we need to bring it back together. That's what I feel, to be honest. No, it was really reassuring to see Katrina succeed because A, she's hot, so there you go. That's nice to see on TV.
Right.
B, she's super creative and talented, and C, she's an overall pretty good person. So I'm glad she had the opportunity to do that and do it to the best of her abilities. As far as Fandango goes, I mean, we've been up and down the roads through the muck together, in the sweat, in the fucking grinder.
He put the years in down there too, like in FCW and the developmental. What you like? I mean, he had like a 3-4 year stint down there, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he was like 6 or 7 because he was there for like 2 or 3 years before I got there, and we're about the same age if I recall. And and then he won the season of NXT, and he kind of got lost, and then Fandango became a dancer, and it was awesome, but then it kind of got lost. So you were kind of worried for him, but I mean, he's got the ball with the Fashion Files, and I think it's something unique and fun to watch on TV, and I look forward to seeing it every week. And him and Breeze are doing it well, so
They are.
I feel like so it's good to see because he's also weird as hell, like I am. So we're kind of akin like that.
But we love the weird guys and the weird girls in the industry, man. I mean, that's what makes it great is all those weirdos.
I think it's entertaining. And that's what
he's
we
so
love.
weird, but in the ring, if people don't know, he's one of the more talented people out there. So it's good to see that.
Carly told me to ask you about improvising backstage promos and bringing your mom and her mom to the shows.
Yeah, I think it got us a lot of heat because they thought we were just trying to get our parents booked, but we pitched an idea to the NXT writer. He was fairly new at the time, too, and they kind of just threw the show at him. He's like, what? What am I doing with this? And it was in between being Redemption and then where we went away, and it was just a weird Saved by the Bell kind of scenario for a while.
Yeah.
But I thought if we were about to get married, that we should have our mothers involved, and they should be, they should meet their future in-laws, so to speak. So my mom was in town, so we got her on the show, and then Carly's mom was in town the next week, and we got her on the show, and it was bizarre. And I mean, kudos to my mother. She knocked it out of the park. That even when she came back, Vince McMahon gave her a thumbs up. So
Oh wow!
Did I was like, wow, Mom, you got a thumbs up from Vince, and I've never.
Oh wow! Let me tell you what. When I would come through the curtain, there was a time, when I would come through the curtain, and if I didn't get that thumbs up, it would crush me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much stock to put into a thumbs up from anyone.
It was pretty surreal.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
what happened? I should be a millionaire by now. Oh, well.
Oh, you will.
It's all good. Okay.
Well, with Impact Wrestling going to India, maybe you will be a millionaire soon.
Maybe if I could get in a Bollywood movie, maybe.
You never know. What was the experience like in India?
Oh, it's hot and humid.
It's a
And
long flight.
Yeah, and they lost all my luggage, so I had the same underwear. Well, I had 2 pairs of underwear to cycle through for about a 5 or 6 day stand. I had
You
no
just turn them
deodorant.
inside out?
No one seemed to notice that I stunk the whole time, but it's fine. And then the shows were good. It's cool to make history and be able to film TV and have that opportunity. And Sony 6 is a great partner for Impact, and that's such an untapped market.
Yeah. Have you ever been there before, or was that your first time?
I went there about a year and a half prior because we were originally going to do TV in 2016 there, but it fell through, as is custom sometimes with Impact stuff. But I was in there for
wrestling
7
in general.
days.
Yeah, pro wrestling in general, things fall through like more often than they don't. But I was in '95. I went to India, and it was crazy over there, man. Wrestling is huge, and we went to a town called Bangalore, and it was sold out, and like security was taking money from people and letting them in the side door before the people with actual tickets got in, and like the place was overcrowded, and like there was structural damage to the building, and it was crazy. lot of corruption over there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm surprised I made it back with all my kidneys.
Oh wow, yeah, exactly.
What was the difference for you wrestling in front of an American crowd and then wrestling in front of an Indian crowd?
I think the Indian crowd was hungry for action and was ready to enjoy everything. When we do TV in Orlando, you know, it's the same people a lot of times, or it's tourists, and it becomes a little desensitized, and you have to. It's not their fault; it's our fault if we don't make them react. But sometimes it takes everything we have to find a different way to do it, especially if we're doing a bunch of days in a row. So it was refreshing to be able to just simplify what we do, tell the basic story, and then through that, it's a lot more fun when the crowd is reacting. So it was easier. It was a lot more fun. Even if you're going to lose my luggage every time and I'm going to come back with dysentery, I would go back for that crowd.
Because isn't it just, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. Like and I know people will go, but don't worry about the crowd. It's all for the cameras and the people at home. I can't work like that, man. I have to be mindful of the live crowd. And I don't need, but pretty much actually, yeah, I kind of need there to be some energy in the room, you know?
Yeah, I mean, let me pose a theory to you. You're a skilled hand who's had a great run. Let me throw this at you and see how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have a good match, but you can't have a great match without a crowd.
Right.
You might be able to have a great match, but you can't have a 5-star or an excellent match without the most enthusiastic possible crowd. I think it makes all the difference in the world, because the moves are just one aspect, the story is just one aspect, but the reaction is probably the most important aspect.
And I feel like, and absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that, and the way you put it. And to me, the crowd is part of the show to me. That's just how I look at it. Like, okay, they're not the principal actors, but they're definitely extras, you know?
Sure.
And as far as, you know, casting goes, and it's imperative. Like, I think it makes or breaks. To me, nothing tells me. The only thing that tells me a match was good is the crowd reaction. That's how I look at it.
100%. Even if I have an okay or like a good match, and on Twitter people are saying, "Oh, this is a great match," and then I watch it back, and it's in the Impact Zone. It's probably the 3rd time I've been out there today, and it was on the 4th day. And in theory, it's good, but the crowd, bless their souls, they've been there a long time. They're not fully invested. So it's like, yeah, it's good. It's not great.
Yeah.
So speaking of, you know, wrestling in front of different audiences and different crowds, etc., Impact has a working relationship with Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan. Are we going to be seeing you wrestle in Japan anytime soon?
I don't have anything confirmed, but I would assume that would probably happen as long as that relationship maintains. And Japan's another place with a great crowd, a different kind of crowd that I'd like to get back to.
Oh, you've been to Japan?
Yeah, we did a couple Wrestle One shows that were combined with TNA. So.
Oh, nice.
So that means Impact has relationships with India, Japan, and Mexico right now?
That's what it looks like. So the more we can get out there and build good rapport and build bridges, and hopefully, you know, I don't feel like wrestling should be, besides WWE, company versus company. I think it should be a collaboration between company and company, because, you know, I don't want to say it's the only way to compete, but it's the only way to maybe make it interesting enough for more people to follow.
And it just creates a healthy marketplace overall. You know, like,
Sure.
I mean, I just think that, okay, have you been, I think I might have seen you in the UK not that long ago, right?
Maybe it was probably like last year.
Yeah. And you see how things work over there, right? They have like 200 different promotions in the UK, and they all get along, and they all they all kind of, I mean, yeah, there's some rifts between certain promoters and that, and, you know, this one don't like that one, but overall, like, it works very well. It's like a loose system there almost.
Did the same wrestlers wrestle for all the companies, and it's not a big deal? It's not like, no, he needs to be exclusive to us.
Not really,
You're not dealing with that? Well, that's great.
Not all the time, but then, you know, I guess if you're going to have a marquee matchup between a top guy in one company and a top guy in another, it might become a business sense of, you know, whose night it is that night, so to speak. So
Sure.
that could probably get a little tricky, but I mean, for the most part, let's just all wrestle. Let's just all put on our gear and put on our underwear and get in the ring together, guys. What do you say?
Hey, man, and to me, there's enough pieces of the pie for everyone to get a slice. Like, okay, we don't have to bogart the whole pie to ourselves, man. You know?
As long as I'm making more money than the other guy, I don't care.
Oh, you know what? Scott Hall had a different quote. He would always tell Vince, he goes, "I don't have to make the most money. I just want to make a lot of money."
So
a true poet.
Yeah.
So, speaking of all these companies working together, and TNA has a complicated, if you want to say, relationship with Crash and AAA, where, the rest, as you know, they can't work with each other, can't be seen on screen together. What are your thoughts about that? And personally for you, do you want to see yourself working more with AAA wrestlers or with Crash wrestlers?
Oh, I wouldn't have a preference. I guess whatever's best for our business. I don't know about any rifts or differences, because I try to stay away from that stuff because it gets too depressing or too confusing for me. But, whoever, man. As long as, I don't have to do a moonsault.
Hey, you were mentioning earlier about some time you spent in OVW with Rip Rogers. Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. Brilliant guy. Can you talk about some of the stuff some of the knowledge he dropped on you?
Yeah, like in 2007, I was used as an extra a couple times in WWE, and then I kind of got the taste. I got the fever, so I was sick of just sitting at home because that's not going to do anything for me. So I moved down to Louisville to go to OVW because they had an intermediate class that kind of eventually got to mingle with, developmental guys. So Rip was in charge of that class, and it was just an eye-opening experience because I thought I knew something, and I knew absolutely nothing. And then just the psychology he teaches and the basics and the thought process on, being a heel, being a babyface, getting the most out of the least, telling that story with physicality as opposed to, move, no selling, move kind of stuff. A great background to have, and I wish a lot of people had that experience, just so the business can slow down and we can focus more. I don't want to say take away from action, because you're definitely going to have action matches that have that kind of mentality, but just calming it back a little bit so everyone has a little more longevity.
Do you have an opinion on the stuff that's out there right now?
Dive rant?
Yeah.
Of course I do. Everyone does. I see it both ways, but I think what's getting lost in the debate, it almost feels like it's a political debate.
It does, doesn't it?
If you had one perception on it, everyone that's on the other side would be like, "Oh, he's one of those guys. He's a liberal, blah blah." And that's not the case at all. Dives are cool. I like dives. I think they look really fancy. I used to do a dive before I hurt my knee the fourth time. I still can do a dive, and I'm waiting for the right time to do it. But I think seeing the same dive in succession on the same show becomes
and setting it up the same exact way, right? And they set it up
Yes.
the same way. You know it's coming.
And like some of these dives, you can do two less. You can do your biggest one towards the end of your match, really getting the most out of it there, and then you take it home. And then I think you've told a great story with the right amount of action that satisfies everybody's needs. So I think the dive debate becomes a loss in creativity, in a sense, into working a stronger match.
That's exactly right.
It's more like There Will Be Blood is a great story and one of the best movies I've ever seen, but it didn't have the same action as the third Transformers movie, which had a lot of explosions but kind of sucked,
Yeah.
So finding the right balance.
Yeah,
And, there's room for both of it, but
see, the thing is I don't think I'm not one of I like to look at things from different people's points of view, and I also understand that things evolve and things change, and we can't, we can choose to try to hold on to the past and get in a time machine and keep traveling backwards, but and there are some things about the past that are worth holding on to, but man, things evolve, and I just think that to throw a blanket statement out there, or just to, and I understand, Rip's, some of the things he says are kind of controversial and
very much.
and all that, and he's kind of going for that too a little bit. But
I would relate it to your tackle drop down. You hate that. You hate that it always gets done in matches, and you think we're past that.
yeah, like every time you see a tackle, a drop down and a leapfrog or something's coming, right?
True.
So I guess whatever. I like to look at things from different people's points of view, man.
I feel like you don't need a dive to have a good match or where your match is on the card. I mean, if I'm on an independent show and the second match is I don't want to say a comedy match, but it's like an over-the-top heel versus a white meat babyface, I can have a match where it's the heel getting pretty much straight heat on this white meat babyface and him slipping over in a crazy pin and getting the win, and that's just as good as if he, then I'll drop kick you here and then you do the powder and then I'll do a lazy ass suicide dive in the first minute for my shine.
That's right.
Nah, man, you don't need, save that for the fourth match or the seventh match or the main event. Like, we don't. The steal the show mentality sometimes takes away from the fact that a card's supposed to build and people have certain spots.
And we exactly know your spot on the card and work within those parameters, and you can still go out there and kill it.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, recently last week at Bar Wrestling, I don't remember what match. I don't remember what match you were, but you were definitely really entertaining, and I clearly remember people should come drunk to Bar Wrestling and not get drunk at Bar Wrestling, which is like the whole thing in this match.
Well, I mean, and all right, the first match of that show is Brian Cage versus Pentagon Jr., right? And they're out there.
Jeez, that's the first match?
That's like a main event anywhere else.
Yeah, they go 15 minutes with all this stuff, and then, the second match has Scorpio Sky, and he's going to do something cool. Third match, the girls are going to want to work really hard, and, they're, like, submission-based, so I'm working Ziggler's little brother, Nemeth, and, like, what can we do different? I don't know, let's tell a dumb story about dick heat. And we're coming back full circle because I guess I'm obsessed with dicks on this podcast. We did a dumb, like the first ever bar wrestling barroom brawl, and it's just like, let's do something kind of wonky and different, and it just gave the crowd something different. We had different reactions. We still had a fairly decent match with a good set of heat and a nice comeback and one false finish, which we probably didn't even need. And then it's just a different thing because I know the fifth match wants to do a bunch of stuff. I know Joey Ryan and M-Dog are do a bunch of stuff, and then I know Willie Mack and Jeff Cobb are closing the show, and they have a lot of weapons in their artillery they want to use. We don't need to touch those if we can do something completely different.
Wow.
Did you notice that there was an older lady like knitting or crocheting during your match?
Yeah, I put her on my Instagram because I took a picture next to her, and she didn't seem happy about it. She must hate me.
I just thought it was hilarious. This like whole like standing room only bar wrestling show, and they're fighting in the crowd, and people are moving, and beer's going everywhere, and then there's like this lady in a wheelchair just knitting.
It's like the definition of chill right there.
Yeah, what is that actually? Like,
crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on right now?
They turned people away at the door, and I was like, how does she get a ticket? She's going to sit there and knit.
Which is also, do you go into shows? Do you get a lot of indie bookings where you're worried about? Oh man, I took this booking. I don't know if there's going to be like 30 people in the crowd, or this is a new company. Especially Bar Wrestling was a brand new company. This is their first show. You don't know how many people are going to show up, and then it's no chairs, standing room only on a Thursday. So there are a lot of factors that people could easily be like, yeah,
no chairs coming. Except for the wheelchair the lady was sitting in when she was crocheting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Impact does a lot of my independent bookings, and I still get requests, but they kind of end up being facilitated through the office. But I'm friends with Joey, and he told me about the concept, and I was like, well, if I can go out there and see my family in California for a couple days, it's totally worth it for me to do. So that was all that based into it. And then, we'll put you against you can work with your friend. Oh, that'll be fun, because then we can just punch each other in the nuts, and we'll just have a great old time.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of catching up for you there. Damian Sandow was hanging out backstage.
Yeah, I mean, there's some independents that I've done, and it felt like I don't want to say I'm a big league and I shouldn't be there, but if I'm a top guy somewhere and I'm on this show where no one's getting paid and, the promoter's running out the door trying to hide from everybody, I shouldn't probably be on this.
Yeah.
But, I don't book myself on it. So I try, if I'm doing independents that come to me that I have to facilitate through Impact, I'll usually make sure they're fairly decent, or friends are working there that know what's going on. So like Dreamer shows, of course, I would love to do as many of those as I can because they're always going to be good.
Yeah, House of Hardcore is awesome.
So you've been on some of those shows too, where some guys didn't get paid, but you did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't feel very good, does it?
Man, that sucks. You didn't get paid. All right, I gotta go. So.
Yeah.
That's good then
let's go find this butthole. Yeah, let's get him, man.
Hey, E, I'm looking at that picture of you and the lady with the in the wheelchair with the crochet.
Grandmother.
Man, look at them abs, bro. Look at those things. Did you paint those in or what?
I mean, I did a little filter. I'm not gonna lie, but they're pretty natural right there.
Wow, man. Those
hey, you're
things
walking around with a pretty sweet 6-pack too yourself.
It's an 8-pack actually, just like yours.
Fair enough.
But I've been too much salt lately though. I'm holding a little bit of water. E.
Just drink more.
Yeah.
Just drink more. Well, Slammiversary 15 is July 2nd. You're wrestling James Storm in a strap match?
That's correct.
Is this your first strap match you've ever had?
It is. I don't even watch strap matches when I do tape study, so I better study up. But yeah, we're telling the story where I've whipped the ever-living shit out of him. I started whipping extras and staff people, so might as well culminate in a strap match. I really strapped the hell out of him one time, like to an excessive nature, where I just know that I'm going to have to get a receipt for it, and I'm dreading it every second of every day.
Oh, that's the fun part. Come on, man.
Yeah. But I do business, so yeah, it'll be good. It won't be good because I hate when people have to build up matches. Like, we're going to go out there and have a great match. We're going to go out there and really excite the crowd. It's actually probably not going to be a great match. It's probably going to be a drubbing, an ass kicking, an absolute, destruction of not only his physical sense, but his soul. I'm going to tear him apart piece by piece. I'm going to rip flesh from his body. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be gross. And I'm going to, win, and it's going to be great. So.
If you win, you'll remain undefeated at Slammiversary.
So I want to know how the rules go of the strap match. Are you guys like you each strap to kind of like a chain match, but a strap? Where you have the strap around?
All four corners, I think.
Well, there's 6 sides, so you got to hit.
I believe it'll be pinfall to a finish. I don't think this issue can be settled by touching a bunch of turnbuckles.
Good, because I'm not a fan of that anyways.
Yeah, I never like that.
It's
always the last tug of war, and then the guy pulls him in, and he tags the corner first.
Yeah. So are you gonna be tied to each other? Or are you just gonna each have like some kind of a strap that you can whip each other with?
Well, I probably should get my agent on the phone and find out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I believe we'd be tied to each other. So
which would you prefer?
The tied to each other.
Yeah.
I think on a card that's gonna be loaded with some good matches and some stipulation matches that gives us a different aspect to work with and tell a different story. So we're not I don't have to go do my dive yet. I can say that for Bound for Glory.
Okay.
How do you feel about Slammiversary being in the Impact Zone instead of traveling? Because usually with big pay-per-views like this, they would travel.
Yeah, I would love to be on the road for it, but the circumstances dictate, because we're going to rattle off about 6 or 7 TV shows that week afterwards. So it's always good to be on the road, and this is why I do like to do as many indies as possible that are reputable, just to see what I'm doing on TV and what's working and what's not working, because in front of the same crowd, you can't really gauge it, so to speak. So it'd be great to see, in front of a neutral crowd, what kind of reactions we get and what kind of things got over via the television product that we can focus on more. But circumstances dictate the Impact Zone. That's been our home for a long time. I'm sure we're going to go there and we're going to kick ass, and it'll be great.
Hey, E, what are the other big matches on the show besides you and Storm?
I believe there's a Full Metal Mayhem match between Eddie Edwards and his wife Alicia, and Davey Richards and his wife Angelina Love. I believe my dear friend Moose, who needs some studying from Rip Rogers, is tagging with NFL superstar D'Angelo Williams versus Eli Drake and maybe Chris Adonis.
Oh, D'Angelo Williams, the guy from the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Moose is telling me that dude, you should see him. He can already do a moonsault, dude. And I'm like,
so what?
Who cares?
So effing what?
Yeah, but I mean, I hope I didn't spoil D'Angelo's moonsault for the show.
Yeah, but still, like, come on, man. That's this kind of a silly thing to hear somebody say.
I'm sure the X divisions will be on the line. I'm not quite sure. I think it's Sanjay and Loki, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe the main event will be Alberto El Patron as the Global Force champion, taking on Bobby Lashley as the Impact champion, and kind of bringing those titles together.
Unify the titles.
Nice. And man, there's some. It's not like you guys aren't loaded with talent around there, are you?
No, there's definitely talent. There's always the locker room, and the talent has never, as far as I've been there, ever been an issue. It's just about perception, and then the battle to defeat that perception, and then that's on us as much as any sort of
And but you don't think any of that has to do with creative?
Maybe not creative as much as just a lot of their business became public.
Yeah.
And still to this day becomes public, and I wish
too much way too much.
Yeah, I would love to see stuff handled in-house, but that's not my call, nor is it my call that people want to talk about it on the internet.
But that's usually. I was mentioning this like in the last couple of weeks. Like that's something the talent usually does, not the people like heads of companies and that. That's all. That's the only thing I want to say about that.
Yeah, and I understand both sides of every story, and there's always two sides of every story, so I don't like to get involved in that. But I think it always provides. It kind of like leaves a negative taste in people's mouth, and I guess it's up to the talent to change that perception, because we can only do the best with what we have, and what we have is that forum to show our skills, and we're going to do it July 2nd at Slammiversary.
Sweet.
You ever party at the Orlando Ale House after the Impact tapings?
I try not to, except unless I really want to get free drinks because it's full of the fans, and then I trick them into buying me free drinks. But yeah, we've been to the Ale House once or a dozen times.
Do you prefer 4 sides or 6 sides?
I prefer 4 if I had to be blatantly blunt, but I do appreciate the fact that giving a 6-sided ring gives us a different look and a different feel and a different sort of impact. So anything that can differentiate you from the standard isn't a bad thing. But sometimes I get lost. There's an extra turnbuckle. What?
I prefer the 4-sided ring, and not just because of traditional reasons, but I don't know about you. I don't climb to the top that much anymore, but when I do, it's very difficult on a 6-sided ring.
Yeah, it's weird up there. I don't know how those guys do all that wacky stuff, because I'll go up there and do my token cross body as a babyface every now and then. I'm like, man, this is tricky.
Yeah, it is. And some guys talk about the 6-sided ring being stiffer, but that part I don't care about. Like a little bit stiffer ring, whoop-de-doo at this point.
Yeah. Well, I hate bumping, so I care about it a lot. Just kidding.
I didn't hate bumping. I just don't do it that much anymore, man.
You're over it. You don't need to.
All right.
How vicious was that double stomp off the top of the 6 sides of steel from Alberto?
It was so vicious. He couldn't pin me after because I was locked into the turnbuckle still, so he had to put insult to injury and frog splash me to death. But it sucked, man.
Oh wow! I'm looking at a still of that. Oh. Okay. Yeah, we just saw that. We just showed a little clip of that. Oh yeah, you're just stuck. You're just.
I mean, you said you had 4 surgeries on your knee, and then your knees are stuck between the cage and the rope. And
it might have been a little swollen after that. Maybe that's why I couldn't walk for a couple of days. But
Would you rather he just pinned you, or did you think he did the right thing by?
I think he did the right thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Because obviously that move would murder any regular man. I'm Superman, so you got to keep me down with more. Right. Should have did it twice. But B, you know what? The frog splash is a finish now, and so he's got another tool in his arsenal to work with.
And it worked. It worked. Yeah. It worked. The people,
that guy came into this company, has beat me twice, and nobody really beats me in Impact, so I should hate him. But working with him, I respect the absolute hell out of him, because he brings another level out of you that's you don't get a lot, because it's real when you're in there with him, and that feels pretty good.
I never had a chance to work with him, but I used to work with his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. Very cool.
Speaking of finishers, how'd you come up with your finisher?
I stole it from an indie video, and I think it was from Sami Callihan at one point. So,
the 1%.
But then I didn't win a lot of matches in WWE, but I used it there, and then I left, and Dean Ambrose adopted it, and then he kind of switched his up. It's not. If I can go back in time, opt for something just a little different because not everybody can make it look as
I was just
devastating
going to
as
ask
the other guy.
is how important is someone bumping for it? Because in your debut against Peter Avalon, who is Norm Furnham in TNA, he took it like a champ and he spiked straight up for it. So someone who is not as willing to jump right on the top of their head, I'm sure that's something good.
It's all right though, you know. It's won me a lot of matches, so it must work.
So hey, E, how long are you tied up under contract with the Impact now?
I believe at Slammiversary would mark the. I would have another year left with them, so we'll see.
So
what the future holds after that. But I got plenty of goals there still to accomplish. So
which is cool, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are in returning to WWE one day, because I think that it's inevitable if you ask me.
It's definitely, you know, a thought I have now that I've accomplished a lot and kind of made my name for myself elsewhere. And to be blunt and frankly honest, I have a lot left to accomplish, and I have a lot to prove there that I never had the chance to, or I didn't deserve at the time. But, you know, I've learned a lot about myself. I know myself now. That it's definitely on my mind, but it's not something I can focus on because my commitments are with Impact. And then
sure,
when that time comes up, you know.
And I'm not trying to make you project too far into the future, anyways. But you know, these are just hypothetical things that people kind of, you know, are interested in hearing about. And also, I just think, like I said, I think it's inevitable. I think that it was time for you to go before, regardless of, of how it happened. Like, I really think that you needed to go and leave that environment for you to grow as well as you have.
Yeah, I mean, if I stuck around, if I would still be there, I'd be a low to mid card comedy act, and that's not who I want to be. You know, I want to be a top guy. I want to be the top man in a sense, is what I say on Impact. I just want to be the absolute best and just the opportunity to do it. So that was definitely the best thing that ever happened to me. I can't look back in anger or regret or anything because it made me who I am today. And I like who I am. I like who I am.
Yeah, I like who you are
Jim,
too, man.
I like who I am. So when that time comes, you know, there'll be decisions to be made, and I have a lot of, you know, tied and invested energy into Impact, and I really want to see it succeed, and I really want to do what's best for them. But at the end, it'll be what's best for me, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we got Slammiversary 15, July 2nd, on pay-per-view, and then Impact airs on Thursdays at 8 on Pop TV?
That sounds right to
and
me.
Fight Net? And then
Correct.
Do you know if you're going to be at Bar Wrestling on July 4th?
I believe Impact will be running television, so I will not be there, but hopefully I can return maybe whenever I want to go on vacation to California, I guess.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you so much, EC3.
Hey, man. What other stuff? Do you have anything else you want to talk about or plug before we go? Like,
No, I should have. Well, you know, I filmed a movie. I don't know when it comes out, so I can't give you any details on that. But there was like a bunch of old Power Rangers in it and some guy from The Walking Dead. And there's like a bunch of, it's a weird ensemble cast.
Do you have the name of the movie?
Tyrus is it? Yeah, it's called Enuati. And before I stress this, by no stretch of the imagination is this a giant blockbuster. This will be, you know, something that maybe winds up on Netflix, or maybe you're walking in Walmart as in a DVD and you see my stupid face on the cover and you're like, what? Pick it up. But that was the first time I got to do any sort of acting, and that was pretty fun and cool, and that's something I'd like to try to in the future. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could see you doing that.
In one of your interviews, you said you'd be like a B-grade, was it like comedian, like a Vince Vaughn? Like, I could be like a B-grade Vince Vaughn. I thought you could be like the next Terry Crews. Like, you're one roll away from being like Terry Crews and White Chicks, where everyone's like, this guy's hilarious. And then you're just on the ball. I mean, he started in Battle Dome, and look where he's at now. So
I would never, I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to be DiCaprio. I'm not going to be Hanks. But I sure as hell could be Crews, right?
Yeah. Hey, do you have a T-shirt? Like, do you have a Pro Wrestling Tee store, or do you have a website or any of that?
I should probably update that. But Pro Wrestling Tees/EC3. You can check out Shop TNA for my official TNA merch. Follow me on the Instagram, the Twitter, and I think I have a Facebook fan page, all at The Real EC3.
Nice.
And well, that's it, man.
are you getting an action figure? I know in your interview with Mark E. Extreme, you were quite upset that Dixie Carter has an action figure, but you don't.
Once we get our shit together and start producing action figures, I'd love to have one, because I think that's a culmination of one of my bucket list things is to put my stupid little action figure on a pedestal.
And you gotta have a video. You gotta be in a video game.
You gotta be in a video game. See?
Yeah.
Man, I'm 2 steps behind.
No, that's coming too.
Working on
Don't
it.
worry. Hey, man, I thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm really happy that that everything has been going well for you. I mean, not counting like the injuries and all that, but just since leaving WWE, I think like everything. I think you've just continued to progress. Make forward progress, and like I said, man, you're really, really good world champion, and so I just thought I thought you held the belt well, and that's pretty impressive to me. So
I sincerely appreciate that, and I sincerely appreciate you recalling our past encounters, because I think from a seasoned vet like yourself, you see a lot of guys work, you see a lot of wrestling, you see a lot of stuff that it's easy to kind of forget that you met somebody in the past or something like that. And the fact that you remember the old FCW match, I mean, that meant a lot to me, so I appreciate that.
Man.
And the compliments helped me, and thank you very much for having me on. That was a good talk. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thanks, man. Hey, have an awesome day, man. I'm so grateful to have you on, man. Thank you.
You too, man. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. EC3, ladies and gentlemen.
That was awesome.
You guys did great. You guys were great.
Cool.
Thank you. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come back with some closing comments. I don't know what they're going to be. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, Maria Menounos here. We want to let you know about my new show on SiriusXM Stars Channel 109. It's called Conversations with Maria, and it's live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go to conversationswithmaria.com for more info. Buzz you later.
Well, we're back, and I'm not sure why we actually took a break, but we did.
Yeah, why'd you call for a break?
I just needed a chance to reset for a second,
Nailed it.
or I guess maybe.
We'll just call it that and keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So
That was an awesome interview. I was in here busting up. He's a great guy.
he is, and you know what? I heard him on
Sam Roberts.
no, way before that, Roddy Piper's on
Oh,
Piper's
wow.
Pit. Yeah, and he was excellent on there. That's why I knew he was going to be like, I knew like, and thank you for you two for bringing the good questions. But I knew he would be fine. So yeah, it was cool. And he's, like I said, like I mentioned to him, he's going to be in WWE again.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I just
yes.
wonder.
Making money.
It'll be cool if he comes over to WWE as EC3, like a defector from another
I
company.
mean,
possibly.
after everything that we've seen with how they're dealing with the Hardys and that intellectual property, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you got a point.
I feel like we could see more like of an AJ Styles kind of thing. You know how AJ kind of came on his own terms, because he made his name like so big outside of WWE. I think like if EC3 continues doing like what he's doing right now at Impact and making a name for himself, like he said, we can see him, doing something similar to what AJ Styles is doing when he came into WWE.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, he's got a little ways yet, though. Like as far as like, because I mean, AJ was a world champion in IWG, in New Japan and all that. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. Maybe.
It's just timing.
Like making yourself a star somewhere else, like AJ did in Japan, is probably his next big step to get recognition. To then have like clout to be like, no, this is what my character is going to be in WWE, and then not be like, no, we have better ideas for you. Like, no, obviously this character's working. We're going to let you do that on our TV.
Boy, I'm having a hard time spitting out what I'm trying to say today.
You got a lot on your mind.
I do have a
We're
lot
about
on
to
my
wrap
mind.
up.
Yeah. So, what else is going on? Are there some things that we need to cover before we?
You definitely
go
got
up there?
Get High Watch Wrestling
Yes.
at the Largo on June 29th. Definitely check that out. Go to ronfunches.com to get your tickets for that. And then Sean's appearance at the Wrestling Guy store on July 8th. TheWrestlingGuy.com for tickets, or at WrestlingGuyHP on Twitter.
Cool.
And
All right.
all the social media stuff. So IG X-Pac12360, Facebook X-Pac12360 show, and then also iTunes. Give us 5 stars or better. Also leave comments on the YouTube page and pretty much anything else that you listen to us on. So
Cool. All right. Well, that's about it for X-Pac12360 this week.
Great job, Denise.
And
Thank you.
not sure the guest is going to be next week, but
It'll be a good show.
it'll
gonna be a
hell of
good
a
show.
It'll be amazing. All right. Everyone have an awesome week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter @TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later.